In the hills of America, there are doors that never open to strangers, and secrets that will never leave the valley alive. He was her father and her jailer, and from the darkness between them, a bloodline was born, one marked for ruin from the very first breath. This is the story they tried to keep locked away, the story of a doomed line, and the house that watched it die. He fathered a doomed line with his own daughter, a hidden American horror. It begins with the sound of a latch falling into place, a dull, metallic click in the dark, the kind of sound that seals not just a door, but a life. In the low light, dust drifts through a shaft of moon, spilling between warped boards. The air is thick with the smell of old wood and something sharper, the faint tang of rust and iron. Behind the locked door, a young woman sits on the edge of a narrow bed, her hands clenched so tightly in her lap that the nails cut half moons into her palms. She listens for footsteps on the stair. She prays not to hear them. In this house, a weather-beaten structure sinking into the mud of an Appalachian hollow, secrets are not hidden in books or letters. They are stored in flesh, passed from one generation to the next like an inherited curse. No one will write them down. No one will speak them aloud. But the land seems to know. The trees lean close. The river runs low and murky, as though it too has learned the art of silence. The man is her father. His shadow has always filled the room before his body does, tall and angular, cutting through candlelight. He has a face that reveals nothing, not guilt, not tenderness, only an unyielding certainty, as if the world beyond these hills is an enemy waiting to take what is his. That certainty is what keeps her here. That certainty is what keeps her from running. When the baby comes, it is winter, and the frost on the inside of the window paints white vines across the glass. The cabin smells of sweat and wood smoke, of milk gone sour. The crying is soft at first, almost unsure, as though the child knows not to draw attention to itself. She holds him close, but cannot look at him without feeling the slow burn of shame in her chest. Outside, the wind keens over the ridge, a sound like mourning. The neighbors, the few who wander near, whisper without meeting each other's eyes. They have seen the way he keeps her close, the way no other man dares to call at the house. But in these parts, a family's business is its own, and to interfere is to invite trouble that might cling to you for the rest of your life. So they avert their gaze, and the hills hold their silence. There are nights when she dreams of the world beyond the valley. In her mind, it smells of rain on stone streets, of bread baking somewhere unseen. But every morning, she wakes to the same boards overhead, the same groan of the wind pressing against the house. The child grows. His eyes are pale like his grandfather's, though he will never know that word, never speak it. And in the father's voice there is pride, not in the child's laugh or his first steps, but in the fact that he belongs entirely to this place, to this blood. Sometimes she wonders if the line is cursed. There are stories from before her, her grandmother's brittle bones, the cousin born with a twisted spine, the way the men in her family age too fast, their hands knotting into claws before they reach 50. She does not know if it is illness, or punishment, or simply the way things are when the bloodline folds in on itself. But in the quiet hours, when the father sleeps and the baby's breathing steadies, she traces the small veins in the child's temple with her finger and feels an almost unbearable tenderness. The seasons turn. The candle stubs grow shorter, and always there is the locked door at the foot of the stairs, the one that opens only to him. She has never crossed it alone. What lies beyond, tools, traps, a rifle leaning in the corner, is his world, and his world alone. But she knows that in some unspoken way, she too is one of his possessions, kept behind that door until he decides otherwise. In the valley, the house begins to sag. Shingles slip from the roof. Weeds choke the path. It is as if the building itself carries the weight of the secret within its walls. And somewhere deep inside her, she begins to understand that there will be no rescue, only survival, and the quiet, terrible question of what that survival will cost. By the time the boy is old enough to wander the yard alone, the mother has learned to move like a shadow. She keeps her voice low, her eyes lowered. She has learned which boards in the floor will groan underfoot and which will keep her passage silent. She has also learned that every kindness she shows her son must be quiet and quick, as if joy itself might be overheard and punished. The father watches the boy with a strange hunger in his gaze. It is not the hunger of a man who wishes his son well. It is the hunger of someone inspecting a tool, weighing its strength, its usefulness, its obedience. In his mind, the boy is not a child. He is the continuation of something, the cementing of a claim on land, on blood, on the narrow world between these mountains. The mother begins to notice little things. The boy's legs bow slightly, his gait uneven. His words are slow to form, his eyes often unfocused. She tells herself that children grow in their own time, that some are simply slower to bloom. But at night, when she hears him coughing in his sleep or sees the pale veins spreading like frost beneath his skin, a silent dread roots itself deeper in her chest. She knows, though she cannot name it, that the curse is already showing. The father speaks rarely, but when he does, his voice is final, as if each word has been hammered on an anvil. He stays here, he says, when a neighbor suggests schooling. He learns from me, and that is the end of it. Lessons are in the turning of soil, the mending of fences, the tracking of deer in the wet loam after rain. The boy learns to skin rabbits before he can read his own name. Winters are the worst. The house holds the cold like a clenched fist. The wind forces itself through cracks in the walls, and frost blooms along the edges of every window. They burn whatever wood they can find, even green logs that smoke and spit, filling the rooms with a bitter haze. In those months, food becomes a thin and careful thing. Cornmeal stretched with water, a squirrel if the traps are kind. The boy's ribs show through his skin, but the father calls it hardening. The mother calls it something else, but only in the silence of her mind. And still there is the locked door. The boy asks about it once, only once. The father's eyes narrow, and his hand clamps down on the child's shoulder in a grip too tight to be anything but a warning. Not your concern, he says. After that, the boy walks past the door as if it were only part of the wall, but the mother sees the way his gaze lingers, the way he slows his step. In the evenings, the father will sometimes take the boy out past the ridge, into the deeper dark where the trees stand like watchmen. They are gone for hours. When they return, the
Subscribe
boy
to
is
my channel.
silent, his clothes dusted with soil, his eyes wide and unfocused. The mother never asks what they have done. She does not want to know. But the smell that clings to them, damp earth, and something metallic, like old blood, follows them into the house and seeps into her dreams. By the boy's 12th year, his body has begun to betray him. His joints swell. His breath catches when he runs. There are mornings when he cannot rise without help, though he insists he is fine. The father sees it too, though he pretends otherwise. Pride and denial are welded together in him, an unbreakable alloy. He will not admit the line is failing, that the blood he has guarded so fiercely is eating itself from the inside. One night, a storm rises sudden and violent. Rain lashes the roof, wind wails through the cracks. The candle gutters on the table, throwing the walls into restless shadow. In that flickering half-light, the father's face looks carved from stone. He sits across from the boy, speaking low, words the mother cannot catch. But she sees the boy nod, sees the fear in his eyes sharpen into something colder, harder. She feels the shape of it, the inheritance being passed down, not in property or land, but in a way of seeing the world, in a violence that moves from one heart to the next like a contagion. The locked door is opened the next morning, only a sliver, but enough for the smell of oil and iron to drift out, sharp and unmistakable. The mother does not look inside. She closes it again, gently, almost tenderly, as though she is sealing away the last thread of the boy's childhood. And somewhere in the rafters, the rain still falls in slow, uneven drops, finding its way through the roof, through the walls, through the years. Each drop lands with the same dull sound, like the counting of something that will one day run out. Patience, breath, blood. She wonders if the boy will outlive his father, or if the curse will claim him first. She wonders if it matters. For now, they remain in the hollow, in the sagging house, in the silence that binds them. And beyond the hills, the world goes on, unaware that in this place, in this blood, something is folding in on itself, a line drawing tighter and tighter until nothing remains but the shadow of its own making. Some bloodlines end in silence, others in fire. But here, in this hollow, it will end the way it began, behind a door that will never open for the living. And when the last drop falls, the house will remember, even if the world does not.